This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. From the big plays to life's everyday moments, see it all in sharp focus with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosovich, George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. Welcome back to a William and Lauren practice report, and talked to Brent Venables on Tuesday. Did a breakdown here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel that you can watch. Today we're going to focus a little bit more on Ben Arbuckle and what he had to say and kind of the task at hand, getting Michael Hawkins ready for his fifth start, obviously starting in place of John Mateer, who had the surgery last week. We should say, as we open up the program today, seemingly sounds pretty positive on the John Mateer front in terms of getting him back onto the practice field, and then obviously everything else that would come after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's maybe recovering quicker than what maybe some people thought. Now, who really knows? I know
it's tough. It's
the
crazy.
And then everybody, like, I get it. The pictures are floating around.
That's all I'm living off of right now is pictures of John Mateer's right hand.
None of us are hand experts.
Sure.
None of us are Dr. Shin that understands the healing process. Like, it may be one of those situations where he still has to wait a couple weeks to start throwing the football. I have no idea.
Sure.
But it seems encouraging at least. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Ben Arbuckle and John Kuceyeski, we'll get to them. But they're tasked this week with kind of getting Michael Hawkins ready.
And I think more than anything, he's around the program. We obviously talked about John and kind of his mentorship of Michael Hawkins in these steps ahead or in these days ahead, getting ready for Kent State. And then you never know what's to come with Texas next week. Certainly, it's Michael Hawkins' show, though. We talked to him on Monday night. We talked about that a little bit in the Tuesday breakdown with Brent Venables. It certainly seems like a guy that, he's been around the block before, obviously, having started 4 games a year ago. Certainly different circumstances, as we talked about, but it is still kind of his, in a way, I want to say like a new, fresh beginning for somebody that was thrown into a situation that was awful a year ago, obviously.
Yeah, it's terrible. The offensive line wasn't any good. Obviously, the play caller didn't help him a whole lot. I mean, he was a true freshman being thrown into a crazy atmosphere in the Tennessee game, as well as obviously having to go start on the road against Auburn. His second career start was at the Cotton Bowl against a really good Texas team that made it all the way to the semifinal last year. And then obviously the South Carolina game was just brutal. So totally different. He had a bye week to prepare. He's got Kent State with a good warm-up game if he were to play against Texas. So, and I think just the guys around him and the coaches specifically are much better than a year ago.
And maybe more than anything else, a fresh set of eyeballs, right, in the quarterback room, and Ben Arbuckle, an offense coordinator that you would expect to be putting him in a much better spot to succeed than he was a year ago, just in terms of Ben Arbuckle and what he saw in Michael Hawkins, because this is a relationship that now goes back, and it's kind of crazy to think that we're talking already about, 6, 7, 8, 9 months now with Ben Arbuckle in Norman since coming in December when Michael Hawkins was going through those bowl prep for the Armed Forces Bowl.
Yeah, and I remember when he came in here in studio and
Sure.
I chatted with him, and he told us about how much he was impressed by Michael Hawkins, even in the few practices that he got to see him for the bowl prep. And he kind of talked about that today in his press conference. And so this is a guy they believe in. This is a guy that I think Ben Arbuckle really feels like they can win with. And I think that he's somebody that, again, they feel very comfortable running this offense in this scheme.
Very good. All right, before we get to the Ben Arbuckle stuff, let us tell you about our good friends over at homefieldapparel.com. Homefield Apparel, based out of Indianapolis, obviously the unique college designs that they have at all of their gear that we have outfitted our families with.
Yeah, I know my wife, Erin, she wears home field stuff all the time to the games. She was over at the Auburn game, and I'm pretty sure she was wearing one of those cool T-shirts. And I know the hats as well. They've got some great hats.
Sure.
The bomber jacket is electric.
I want people to order the bomber jacket so when it does get cold, I promise it's going to get cool.
It will eventually.
You can wear that.
That Missouri game late in the year, LSU late in the year, you're going to want that bomber jacket.
No doubt about it. Just go to homefieldapparel.com. They take care of us. They've been in Norman. They had the pop-up, party, extravaganza, whatever you want to call it, pop-up sale in Philadelphia when we were up there covering the Temple game. Homefieldapparel.com. Thank you to the good people over at Home Field. All right, very good. Let's get back to Ben Arbuckle. He did talk about Michael Hawkins and what he saw when he came in December, and then obviously working with him through the spring. Here is Oklahoma offense coordinator Ben Arbuckle.
Wildly talented. Has great arm strength. The ability to extend plays, has a quick release, and I think just, his speed is also kind of an X factor too. Just he's able to do special things with his legs. But I got to be here during the bowl game whenever he was the quarterback all by himself. So I think that month and that role was really, really big for him. Just being the leader of the team, being the leader of the offense, being the leader every day whenever you're out there at practice, because it is different. And I think that developmental stage in his process was big for him. But Mike, he's really a smart kid. He's fun to be around. He's not rah or anything like that. But I go back to summer workouts, like he finishes first through the line a lot. He's just seeing his body change from when I got here to the bowl game to whenever we started fall camp. He's put in the work to be a really good football player. And so I'm excited about Mike. I'm excited about opportunities for him. And, ready to watch him roll.
Likewise, Mr. Arbuckle. One of the things that he is going to have to do, and he has been doing, I'm sure, since that time in December, since the spring football, and even, I'm sure, in the back of his mind thinking, in case something were to happen to John Mateer, is how they're going to use him. And I think that's going to be super interesting. Maybe not as much for this weekend, but if he has to start moving forward down into the Cotton Bowl or on the road at South Carolina, you certainly want to be able to use his legs.
Yeah, I think using his legs and getting him out of the pocket, some of his best stuff last year was some of that sprint out stuff, roll him out, do some, different stuff, throw on the run. I think he's super talented. Obviously, he has some great skill with his legs, but I think also with his arm and the angles he can throw out, and especially on the run, he's got great arm talent. So what throws is he most comfortable with? That's probably different than maybe what John Mateer is. John was very good at attacking the middle of the field. Is that something Hawkins is as comfortable with? I don't know. Is it the deep ball? I think Hawkins throws a pretty good deep ball. Like, could you see them push the ball down the field more because he's maybe a bit more comfortable with that? Defenses might not be expecting it. Like, what throws is he comfortable with? I think that's what I'm really curious about. I think the quarterback run game is definitely going to be a part of the plan. Maybe not this week, but if he were to start against Texas, for sure. I'm more curious, though, like what routes and different things like that, different passing concepts is Michael most comfortable with.
Here is Ben Arbuckle with a little bit more on Michael Hawkins.
Yeah, I think that comes throughout practice and spring ball and fall camp. You see, you try and find the different strengths with the quarterbacks, and you try to call the practice or the scrimmage or the game accordingly to their strengths, because if you want the offense to be successful, you got to have the trigger man being successful too. And so that's where it came from. It's just a process with everyone. It's a different individual relationship with everyone. And so the biggest thing is finding everybody's strengths and then putting them in a position to be successful with those strengths while you're still developing, things that maybe they struggle with or they're good at them, but you want to get them great at them, right? You're always constantly trying to develop those things. But that's it right there. You're just trying to find those strengths and play to those strengths in order for everyone as a whole to be successful.
To steal a phrase from the great Josh Pate, a friend of the program, for the casuals out there, I'm sure they're going to say, well, who the hell is John Kuceyeski? Officially, I believe he's a senior offensive analyst with Oklahoma, working with the quarterbacks. This relationship with Ben Arbuckle goes all the way back to the Western Kentucky days. And then obviously he followed him up, or they went along with each other up to Washington State over the last couple of years. Coach Kuceyeski has come down to Dorman. And certainly when you talk about getting somebody like a Michael Hawkins ready, John Kuceyeski is going to do a lot of the preparation work just in terms of working with the quarterbacks, as we've seen, as we've talked about out at practice or, through that bowl practice session.
Yeah, this is a guy that's kind of been attached at the hip of Ben Arbuckle throughout his career and had a huge hand in helping develop a John Mateer at Washington State, Cam Ward, all the guys over at Western Kentucky, Austin Reed, who's I want to say he's still with the Bears on the practice squad. I think he broke the record at Western Kentucky for passing yards and stuff. So these two have worked together very well versed in coaching quarterbacks. I even think, Eddie, I don't know if you know this, he helped, Kuceyeski that is, helped coach J.D. Pickell at Cornell back in the day. They have a connection there, and J.D. speaks very highly of Kuceyeski.
Did not know that.
Yeah, very highly of Kuceyeski. So this is a guy that I think has done a very good job at several places. There's a lot of talk about Ben Arbuckle possibly being a potential head coach in the future and all of that. We'll get to that later.
Sure.
I think OU needs to also worry about Kuceyeski getting an offensive coordinator job or an official quarterback's title somewhere else because I think this is a up-and-comer in the business and somebody that obviously has done a really good job, and why you trust him to kind of help get Michael Hawkins where he needs to be.
A little bit more of a backstory on John Kuceyeski from Ben Arbuckle, as well as what Brent Venables has seen from the quarterback room.
Yeah, Coach Kuceyeski, he's an unbelievable person. And he's a really, really smart ball coach. The first moment that I met Coach Kuz was when we were at Western Kentucky, and he came to be our director of player personnel. It didn't take me long after conversations with him and everything to figure out that this guy knows ball. He's a quick learner. He's diligent to every process that he has really in his life. He does a great job of building relationships with players, and he's a really, really good teacher too. So someone that I trust, to the nth degree, and I'm just glad every day that I have the ability to work with Coach Kuceyeski, and everything that he does, allows me to really be a coordinator for everyone. I don't just have to stay with the quarterbacks at all time. I can make sure everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction. And so he is a stud. He's a great coach, and he's a big part of our process.
Yeah, it's a tremendous advantage. John's very talented, excellent teacher, knows what he wants. Very similar to Ben in many ways, and then other ways they're just a little bit different. But tremendous mentor, teacher, coach, incredibly consistent in his approach to the game, and I love to hear the coaching and the development on play to play throughout rep after rep after rep during the course of practice. It's constant feedback, encouragement, affirmation, correction. They definitely know what they're doing. John is fantastic, understands certainly their system, and he knows how to get guys better. That's what I love, and but he's full of energy and really passionate about coaching quarterbacks.
Certainly somebody that I remember talking to John Mateer about and talking about John Kuceyeski way back during the spring, and just kind of his importance in Mateer's development up at Washington State when he was really starting to get going as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Ben Arbuckle is a big reason why Mateer ended up here, but I think Kuceyeski is just as important in a lot of ways. They built a really tight relationship up there, so I think he's been pivotal in his development.
That trio's been uber important, right, for the offensive product as a whole. Oklahoma's obviously got to get the run game figured out. I think that's going to be one of the big storylines going into this weekend, just in terms of, are we going to see somebody like a Jaydn Ott? Obviously, the offensive line's in a much better spot. We talked about on the Brent Venables breakdown with Fabechi Wiwu talking to reporters on Monday night after practice. Ankle injuries that offensive line had, whether it be him or Jake Michaela or Michael Fasusi, you're in a much better headspace. We'll get to that. But first, let us tell you about our good friends over at Lucy. Been telling you about up here. 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. Lucy breakers as well that have the nicotine pouches with an extra surprise inside. If you want to do so, all you got to do is go to lucy.co/SooterScoop and use the promo code SooterScoop. Lucy.co/SooterScoop to get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Plenty of different flavors to take in. This is the espresso.
Nice.
As well as
done.
the mint. You got the wintergreen. Many different variations. Kerry Murdoch tells us he's on the subscription service. All you got to do is go to lucy.co/SooterScoop. Use the promo code SooterScoop for 20% off your first order. And we must tell you, Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. We also would like to tell you about our good friends over at Huel. How about that?
Boom.
Georgie's got it right here. Got the
This
the
stuff's
greens
delicious.
as well as the kind of it's like a Shaco boast. I
Yeah.
think it's Carrie. I know Carrie tried it on Tuesday.
Yeah, and he said it was delicious. I think he had the vanilla.
I believe so.
I want to try the iced coffee one.
We're going to get you signed up for that. All you got to do is to get signed up is go to Huel.com/Suiter Scoop and use the promo code Suiter Scoop, the exclusive code Suiter Scoop for 50% off your purchase for new customers. Once again, that is Huel.com/Suiter Scoop. Use the exclusive promo code Suiter Scoop for 15% off from our friends over at Huel.
35 grams of protein in this thing, 400 calories. That's pretty good.
Not bad at all, as well as it being a complete meal. It
Yep.
has all the nutrients that you need to thrive, as well as 27 vitamins and minerals. Thank you to our good friends over at Huel. All right, we need to talk about this run game because obviously
It's not good.
You're not going to be able to just kind of win games the way that they have, I feel like, over this course of the first 4 games if you can't take steps in the run game against the much better opponents that are on Oklahoma's schedule.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because I think that'll obviously be a point of emphasis this week against Kent State, where maybe you can try some new things, maybe not new things, but try some different stuff that maybe you haven't had as much success with and kind of work out some of those kinks and whether that's, more gap scheme stuff or outside zone, counter. I don't know, but I'm very interested to see if they mix it up this week and try and get back to some bread and butter on the run game, because as good as they've been in the passing game, I think they're 21st in the country in their pass offense this year. I want to say they're like 115th, 120th in rushing offense this year. They got to get that thing again. It doesn't need to be a top even 25 unit in rushing offense. That'd be great. But if you could get it to top 50 or somewhere in that range, it's at least respectable. So Oklahoma really needs to get that going. And with an offensive line that's getting healthier, you would expect that to happen maybe this week.
And it kind of seemed like they were taking that step right in the Michigan game, and then obviously had the ankle injuries, and you went up to Temple, and you're able to run it a little bit better. John Batier had the big long run. Torrey Blaylock had a little bit of a breakout game.
And I think Blaylock against Temple is the only running back this year for OU to rush for 100 yards.
It was certainly something that was asked of Ben Arbuckle on Tuesday at his local media day luncheon. Here is the Oklahoma offense coordinator on a work in progress that is the run game.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be efficient to efficiently run the football to win games. I referenced earlier you're able to peel back a lot of layers during a bye week and see where you need to improve. And I think we identified a lot of things that we can get better at. And I'm not even just talking about running the football. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can still get better at. And but that is one aspect of football that you better be able to do in order to win games. And so something that we have high urgency on, and I absolutely believe that we are going to get better at it. And so, excited for that, excited for the way that our guys have bought in to everything that we've talked about, especially the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so, and ready to get rolling with it.
And I know I'm fearful of what's to come, but Coach Arbuckle, what about Jaydn Ott?
Absolutely, he had a great bye week practices. I thought he came to work. He had a great urgency about him, and and followed that up with a great Monday, walk through yesterday. I mean, he was really, really good in those, and so he's been focused in, dialed in, and really had a great bye week practice. So excited for him and the opportunities that could come his way.
I don't know.
I mean, you don't say that if he's not going to play this week.
Sure.
I would think. So
regardless, though, whether it be Torrey Blaylock, whether it be Javante Barnes, whether it be Xavier Robinson,
it can
Taylor
be Gabe
Tatum,
Sawchuk for all I care.
They need to get something going, and you would expect with Kent State. I know Florida State, and their last time out, they ran for almost 500 yards on like 58 carries. It was something insane. you would hope that you get some type of level of confidence from a run game that we've always talked about. When you get down to the Cotton Bowl, you go through all the cliche lines of what team's going to run the ball the best, what team's going to protect the ball, but you have to be able to figure something out in the run game.
Yeah, and I think it starts up front. You got to get better push from this offensive line, and like I said, they're getting healthy. They should feel better, and against an opponent like Kent State, you should be able to fire off the ball and really get a good push. And then I think it's, running backs. Can they find the right lanes? Can they hit the holes and make guys miss, things like that? So it's going to be interesting. For a week that they're playing a really bad opponent, I feel like there's a lot we can learn with this group, or at least have a clearer vision of what they're doing and maybe can get better at this week. And I know that during the bye week, the run game is certainly something that they focused on.
We've gotten to that point in the season where there are starting to be job openings. And I think one of the good things, good news, bad news. Good news, your offensive coordinator might be a part of some of those conversations. Obviously, just 30 years young. Ben Arbuckle is one of the up-and-coming guys you would look at as somebody, a program trying to hire a head coach, possibly being somebody like a Ben Arbuckle. At the same time, it kind of works in your favor, I guess, that he is only 30 years old. It was brought up on Tuesday of Ben Arbuckle as well as Brent Venables. 30 years young. That too young to be a head coach in today's world of college football. I know that somebody like a Kenny Dillingham would probably laugh at that idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's too young, but I think everybody's, career path is different. Arbuckle's only been coaching, for the last 7 years now, 6 years. And obviously one of those was at Houston Baptist and another was at Seminole, Texas. And that's not to say he's not ready.
Sure.
I still think, though, for a job like, the two jobs that he's been linked to, or at least a potential candidate, is UCLA and Oklahoma State. And while I think that, he could end up getting hired there, it still feels like he's like a year or two away from being like a Power 4 type of head coach at a place like that. I think some Group of 5 schools could come after him. But I don't think it's too young. I also think that Ben probably still needs another year or two before he's thrown into being a head coach. So we'll see, but his name is certainly floating out there, and that means he's doing a pretty damn good job.
It's kind of wild to think about somebody like that just, I don't know, almost being 8 years younger than me.
He's 1 year older than me, or 6 months older than me, pretty much.
It's crazy. You should be looking up to him.
I do.
He's your elder just as much as you look up to me.
Maybe I could be a head coach. Maybe that's what that means.
Maybe not so much. You got to start driving Uber first. And that's what Ben Arbuckle did. He was asked about the head coaching, just the idea of becoming a head coach, as well as Brent Venables asked about, is 30 years young or 30 years old too young to be a head coach? Here are their answers on Tuesday.
I mean, I'm flattered that someone would say that about me, but that none of that stuff registers in my head at all. I mean, I have a responsibility to this university and to these kids, so I haven't even thought about if I would be ready to be a head coach, or I'm not seeking anything either. So, I mean, my responsibility is to Oklahoma, to these kids, putting them in the best position to be successful every single day. And that's where my loyalty lies, and that's where my mind is set, is right here at Oklahoma. And yeah, that's about all I got to say about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's easier to be a head coach at a young age, if ADs are more willing to hire. I don't know what the test of time really says, that what the story is, but he'll certainly be somebody that has great opportunity in the future. And for me, I've always said, and I tell it to my my colleagues, just as they look at opportunities to grow and elevate in the profession, is when you have what you value, don't screw it up. And the only thing I would say, when you find somewhere that has the resources and the opportunity to win at the highest level year in and year out, there's a lot of fulfillment in that. Being successful, winning, being able to recruit great players, lack for nothing when it comes to resources. So you get to show up every day in a profession that's about winning and being successful, that you have a fighting chance in a profession that's really hard to be successful. And I would just, I've always said, man, wait till the job that comes up that you absolutely love, that's an easy, passionate sell for you. And that's just me, though. And I've always, when approached, I've given, that advice, when asked for. But everybody's a little bit different in the things that they desire. And some people just want to be a head coach no matter what. And that's cool, too. Our building's full of guys that are going to be great future head coaches. But Ben will have a lot of opportunity. He's a winner. Everything that I've bragged on him in the past, he's got maturity beyond his years, and he's got a great toughness to him. He's got very relational, and he's passionate about winning.
Certainly seems like he can catch a lot of flack for the Seth Luttrell disaster that was a year ago, but it seems like they've hit on it. On Ben Arbuckle and obviously John Mateer.
He's most likely going to be a head coach at some point. It's just kind of a matter of when. I mean, you look at the history, and we've talked about it on here, since 1999 and Mike Leach, every single offensive coordinator that OU's had has gone on or were hired to be head coaches other than Seth Luttrell last year. Obviously, Josh Heupel wasn't hired away. Obviously, he was let go by Oklahoma, but is now the head coach at Tennessee, was also the head coach at UCF. And Seth Luttrell was the head coach before he came back here.
Sure.
So if you're an offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, you're most likely going to be a head coach at some point in your career.
It certainly seems like if you play quarterback as well, you're going to be a starter in the NFL. I know that note that was passed around on Tuesday afternoon. Every starting quarterback at Oklahoma from 2015 to 2023, with Dylan Gabriel possibly getting a start this weekend in London for the Cleveland Browns, every guy will be starting this weekend in the National Football League.
Jackson Arnold up next.
Might break the cycle with Jackson, but certainly people hope that John Mateer and Michael Hawkins kind of be one of those guys.
For sure.
So that's going to do it for today's William and Lauren Practice Report. We'll be back on Wednesday for the unofficial 40 with Carrie and Josh joining George and myself, as well as Thursday. We're going to catch up with Andy Staples, kind of get a big national look at college football. I don't think you all want to learn too much about the Kent State Golden Flashes, but that's going to be on Thursday for the game day preview. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.